Hello there. One of the arguments for leaving the European Union was over the invasive nature of the European Arrest Warrant, or EAW. So what if I told you the EAW shows no sign of going, and that the government is, in fact, legislating to put something like it in place with other countries? Firstly, as ever, please kick that YouTube algorithm up the jacksie by giving this video a big, fat like. And I'm always uploading new content, so please check back daily. So ardent Brexiteers out there might be under the impression that the UK is leaving the EU and all of its organisations and procedures. But I took a quick look at a new government bill that's been introduced by Baroness Williams of Trafford in the House of Lords, and it raised a lot of questions for me. Now, I do have to point out that I'm not a qualified lawyer and definitely not an expert in these matters. All I can go on is what's included in the draft legislation. So the bill in question is called the Extradition Provisional Arrest Bill (HL), and the HL bit refers to it starting its journey through Parliament in the House of Lords as opposed to in the House of Commons. And the first lines in the bill might raise your eyebrows a bit. What it says is, "A bill to create a power of arrest without warrant for the purpose of extraditing people for serious offences." Create a new power of arrest without warrant. Now, given that statement, why isn't the entire lefty human rights loving brigade up in arms over this incursion into the rights of the citizen, especially those from abroad who might have come here to evade arrest, you know, the ones that are at the top of the snowflake protection list? So if they're happy with this bill, then maybe the rest of us shouldn't be. And why nothing in the mainstream press? And further, the Act also contains within it the power to make further amendments to the law. Now, the Act itself is not a standalone Act. What it does is make significant amendments to the 2003 Extradition Act. Section 1 of that 2003 Act concerns extradition from the UK to what are called Category 1 territories, and Section 2 of the Act concerns the extradition of people to, wait for it, Category 2 territories. Now, what are Category 1 and Category 2 territories? Well, Category 1 territories are EU member states that are covered by the European Arrest Warrant process, and as far as I can make out, this also now includes 2 of the 4 non-EU countries that are in the European Economic Area, namely Norway and Iceland, since they came under the EAW surrender of suspects process as of the 1st of November 2019, just 3 months ago. And as the University of Kent explains, the European Arrest Warrant is an instrument for the surrender of a person from one EU member to another for the purpose of being prosecuted for a criminal offence or to serve a sentence already imposed in the latter. Now, the other 2 non-EU members of the EEA, Switzerland and Liechtenstein, do not, as far as I can see, come under the Category 1 list. But much more on that in a moment. Also, bear in mind that the UK is part of the EAW process, I think, until the end of the Brexit implementation period on the 31st of December. Except that the 3 EU countries of Austria, Germany and Slovenia have cited constitutional problems that would prevent them extraditing suspects to the UK under the EAW scheme after Brexit Day on the 31st of January. Then we come to the Category 2 territories, which are all the other dozens and dozens of countries around the world with which the UK has separate extradition treaties and agreements with. So at present, as far as I can determine, 30 countries are part of the EAW, the EU27, the UK, Norway and Iceland, but I can't find a definitive list to confirm that. And as I said earlier, this is covered by Part 1 of the 2003 Extradition Act. But this new government bill going through Parliament right now does not disturb Part 1 of the 2003 Act at all. So you have to ask yourself, is the UK government planning on us continuing to be part of the EAW process after the Brexit implementation period is ended in exactly the same manner as now? Remember that a bill leading to a new Act of Parliament can include commencement instructions to phase in changes to law. So a repeal of the law covering the EAW could have been included here, with instructions to make it law on a future date included in the text. Think the exit day in Brexit legislation, for example. But it hasn't been, which raises questions for me. But what this bill does do is add a whole new category of countries to Part 2 of the 2003 Act called Specified Category 2 Territories. And it puts in place a sort of EAW-style process for dealing with extradition to those countries. And those specified Category 2 territories are stated as Australia, Canada, Liechtenstein, New Zealand, Switzerland and the USA. Now the sharp-eyed amongst you will have immediately clocked that the two remaining countries in the EU sphere of influence, namely the EEA countries of Switzerland and Liechtenstein, are named in here, which is interesting in its own right, as it looks like a sort of tidying up exercise. Either that or the government has a shrewd idea that Switzerland and Liechtenstein will somehow be swept up in some or other manner by the EU in the very near future. But what you may have missed is the connection between the UK and the four other countries named, that of Australia, Canada, New Zealand and the USA. Well, the answer to that one is that they are the complete membership of the powerful Five Eyes intelligence network. Interesting? I'll leave you to mull over those two little snippets for yourselves. But as to the procedure itself, in both the EAW process and this new system for this special new small group of specified Category 2 territories, all that has to happen is the UK gets a piece of paper correctly filled in by the requesting state, and a certificate can be issued by a relevant UK authority for the arrest without warrant or other cause of that person, who has then to be quickly placed before a judge to check the validity of the paperwork before the extradition process can start. But now we come to the big difference. Under the European Arrest Warrant system, there is a reciprocal arrangement, a process in law laid down in treaties and Part 3 of the 2003 Act, that the authorities must follow to extradite someone from an EU-controlled country back into the UK. But I can find no procedure for an equivalent fast-track route for extradition from those 6 new territories to bring suspects and convicted criminals who are on the run back into the UK. One-way traffic? There is also the issue of the extremely one-sided extradition arrangement we already have with the USA. Surely this will just make it even more lopsided. But the upstanding and law-abiding amongst us could be tempted to say, well, it only affects criminals, so what do I care? And you could argue that any process such as this that makes the UK less attractive to criminals to come and hide in must be a good thing. But with all this government huff and puff about taking back control and diverging from the EU, this sounds more like maintaining the status quo with the EU and opening up the country to easy extradition claims from the other Five Eyes countries, notably the USA. And I can't find out where it mentions this in the Tory election manifesto. Now, I'm definitely right of centre, but I do believe in certain fundamental rights and processes, but those used in the EAW are not among them. And although I'm no expert in these matters, there is a whiff emanating from this bill that, for me, does not pass the Brexit take-back control sniff test. And the fact that neither the human rights lobby nor the press seem to be kicking off over it does somewhat puzzle me. Well, actually, it astounds me. But they do favour anything at all that keeps the UK connected at the hip with the EU, don't they? Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it. So, do you think this new extradition procedure is legit? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.